The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, figuring they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
As John Facenda said in They Call It Pro Football. Well, that didn't work, did it? Okay. We're having some issues here. I'll have to reset that. That was supposed to be John Facenda saying, it starts with a whistle and ends with a gun. And last night, it ended with a spit, or started with a spit. You can look at it both ways. But, boy, we did not expect that to kick off the football season, but that's how it began last night in Philadelphia. Let's try John one more time.
It starts with a whistle and ends with a gun.
Yes, that's the way we're supposed to have it. So off we go as football season is rolling, and the Commanders will open up against the Giants on Sunday. We'll look at that, but of all the things that I have seen in watching professional football for nearly 60 years, I remember watching a Redskins game with my dad in 1966. So 60 years, almost 60 years coming up on that. I never have seen a game start quite like that. Now, they did have a kickoff, but to see what happened there is really remarkable. I mean, you just wouldn't expect that. And maybe it doesn't happen if there's not an injury on the opening kickoff. Ben Van Sumeren goes down with what looks like a knee injury, unfortunately, to cart him off the field. But, while they're getting the cart out there and getting him ready to be taken off, they're just kind of standing around, which is what they do. And Jalen Carter doing what I'm sure he's done many times when he's faced young players. He goes up to the rookie guard for the Dallas Cowboys, Tyler Booker, and, probably does a little bit of trash talking there. And there's Dak Prescott, standing there with his teammates. And then you go, whoa, what happened there? You see a flag go up in the air. Maybe it was for something that he said. I mean, could he have said, because there wasn't any pushing or shoving or anything. Could it have been something so offensive that the referee obviously heard that he was going to flag 15 yards against the Eagles? Okay. And then you find out, no. There's a spit there. Now, much like the Seinfeld episode, there was a second spitter. And the second spitter was actually the first spitter, Dak Prescott, who, although we saw him get spit upon by Jalen Carter, it was Prescott who spat the first spit, although it does not appear that he was necessarily spitting at Jalen Carter. We will get to what Jalen Carter said about it. We'll get to what Nick Sirianni said about it. We'll get to what Jalen Hurts said about it. But this is the Prescott explanation of how this all began.
I probably spit 1,000 times throughout the game. I mean, especially game day, maybe even in general, and something I guess I'm not proud of. But in that case, he was trolling, I guess you could say, trying to mess with Tyler Booker. I was just looking at him. I was right here by the two linemen, and guess I needed to spit, and I wasn't going to spit on my lineman, and I just spit ahead. But I would say he was back there where Jory was in that sense, and he asked, or he goes, "You trying to spit on me?" And at that point, I mean, I felt like he was insulting me. Like I wouldn't spit on somebody. I'm damn sure not trying to spit on you. Like, we're about to play a game. I'm wondering why you're trying to mess with the rookie. And so when I stepped through, I actually said the words like, "What the hell would I? Excuse me, but I'm probably even more colorful. What would I need to spit on you for?" And he just spit on me in that moment, and it was more of a surprise than anything. Refs obviously saw it through the flag. I was like, "Hell yeah, we get 15 yards to start the game off." Didn't realize he was getting ejected. Unfortunate that he did. Hell of a player. Changed our plan and our blocking scheme. As I've told you all right before the week, that we're going to protect against him. So helped in that manner. But I don't wish for anybody to get out of the game. I'm sure he probably regrets that to some extent. I'm pretty sure he knows I didn't try to spit on him or wasn't even aiming to spit on him. So something that's probably going to need a lot of coverage and a lot of attention that feel sorry for him in the sense of yeah, I mean, I know how excited each and every one of us are, right, to kick off the season and the season opener, and hell of a player like that doesn't even get a chance in the first play. Unfortunate circumstances.
The reaction was weird, too, from Carter. He didn't even whoa. No, he I guess he understood when he did it that he was going to be kicked out of the game. I'm sure that they go over these things. They have referees come talk to the team. I mean, these are things you understand, and it's not his first rodeo. He's been around the NFL. He did apologize after the game. Now, he's in damage control mode here because the Eagles are going to play the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl rematch next weekend. That's their next game. They don't want to be without Jalen Carter for that game. So he understands that he's got to be contrite here. The question is, would the league suspend him, and would they suspend him for a game like that? He said in the locker room, it was a mistake that happened on my side. It just won't happen again. I feel bad for my teammates and the fans out there. I'm doing it for them, not being able to start the game, even finish the game. It's effed up, and it's effed me up. We're going to get better. It won't happen again. I make that promise. Going on to say this.
Things went how it went. We just got to move on. I've made a promise to them boys. It won't happen again.
We'll do a couple more. Are you worried you might be suspended? Are you worried you might be suspended?
If I get, that text or that call and about that conversation, then we'll handle it as then.
Jalen, when it happened, were you like in a fit of rage, or what was your emotion?
I was calm. I walked off the field calmly. I was not mad. That's pretty much, I couldn't really do nothing else. The rough decision is the rough decision on the situation.
You said you weren't last one, please. Did Jack say anything, or was there anything that just made you walk over?
I don't know. When things started to come out and you start seeing things, then we can go off that. But I don't got nothing to say about it. I'm just trying to make sure the team's straight.
Yeah, well, as far as what was said to the team about this, we'll get to Nick Sirianni, who's kind of stonewalling the whole thing. But Jalen Hurts, appeared with Scott Van Pelt long after the game, and Scott asked him, did Carter address the team, and was the team addressed about Carter?
Yeah, that was an unfortunate thing, but he and I had a conversation, and we're on the same page. He's holding himself accountable to that, and he knows, and there was also something on the other side that that can't happen either, and so we just got to control what we can, So I love JC. He's a hell of a player. He's a special player, and he knows that. And so we're just going to learn from it as a team. That's the number one thing. You're very unwise if you don't look at something and learn from that, whether it was you or someone else.
Yeah, here's what you learned. Don't spit on another player. That's a pretty simple lesson. Don't do it. And if Carter thought that Dak Prescott was spitting at him, I mean, you got to look at the logic of that. Dak Prescott's been around 10 years, 9 years, whatever it is, and he's the quarterback of the team. I mean, he knows, and he saw. Actually, Carter couldn't see the referee because the referee was behind him. You saw Dak Prescott as soon as he got spit on go, hey, over here. Yeah, and the referee threw him out of the game. So he knew that it was going to happen. So the thought that Dak Prescott would spit at Jalen Carter when that's his defense of a rookie teammate who's getting ready to start the first game doesn't add up. So that's going to be interesting to watch to see if, in fact, the league suspends him. Can the team? I guess they can't because there's agreements with the Players Association. But if I'm the Eagles, I investigate not paying Carter for this game because he got himself not only tossed out, but tossed out of the game plan because that was, I'm sure, a lot of what they were looking to do against the Dallas Cowboys. And without him in the game, different story. As you heard Prescott say, they were able to do things that they hadn't expected to do with their game plan because they expected Carter to be on the field. This is Nick Sirianni, the coach, and this is what coaches do, much stonewalling as possible. I'm going to give you less than 2 minutes of it, but this went on for quite a while as reporters were trying to dig at, hey, what are you going to do about this?
Obviously, we had some personal fouls today. I want these guys to play with great energy, great tenacity, while doing it within the rules of the game. So we'll address that. We talked about that obviously at halftime because I felt like, that's a really good offense, and every one of their drives in that first half that resulted in points were all penalties. And now, a PI. That's different. That's in the heat of the game. Those are going to happen. But I know we had one with Nolan and one with JC, and that creates short fields for an offense. Again, we want to be there. We want to have great like I said, energy, tenacity, all those different things. But we got to do it within the rules of the game, and we'll address that. We'll go through that, but we got to get better in that scenario because we need that guy on the field. He's a really good player.
What specifically is your response to Jalen's behavior on that?
Yeah, I'm going to keep all our conversations and all my disciplinary things in house. But we got to fix it as coaches.
Is this something where you might take disciplinary action against Jalen?
Again, I will keep everything in house, and we will. You won't ever get that from me. Everything will always be handled in house, just like private conversations that I have with players. None of that will ever be out to you guys. I'm sorry.
So what do you think you can do to keep Jalen from doing this? I mean, he's had a history of, he's gotten 2 fights last year. He seems to have a habit, and he doesn't seem to be able to control himself when provoked. Is there anything you can do to stop him? Yeah,
like I said, everything that we do is going to be held in house. Again, he knows. And we needed him out there today, and he wasn't out there against a really good offense.
So you're not going to get anything out of Nick Sirianni. Look, it's why he fell to number 9 in the draft. There were issues at Georgia too, but these are guys that you want to have on your football team. They're game wreckers, and that brings us to Micah Parsons. Now being a Green Bay Packer, and he went out of his way yesterday to talk about how great the locker room is in Green Bay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he's a game disruptor, as is Carter. So you don't have Carter on the field for the Eagles. If you had Micah Parsons, then you got your own disruptor. Maybe the game takes on a different look. If you watched it, and I only watched the first half, and I'm glad I turned it off at halftime because they had an hour delay because of lightning and only 1 field goal in the second half. Most of the scoring in the first half, 7 possessions, 7 scores, and you had a 21-20 game at half, which resulted in a 24-20 final. But if you think about Micah Parsons on the field, does Jalen Hurts have the night that he has? He didn't throw the ball very much. He threw only 23 passes, completed 19 of them for 152 yards. That's check down Charlie, if you ever saw stats. And he ran for 2 touchdowns pretty much untouched. Micah Parsons out there might be a different story. Ron Jaworski, analyzing the game for local TV in Philadelphia, this was his look at how he thought Hurts played.
Maybe the numbers weren't gaudy, big passing numbers, number of attempts. But the way he managed the game, once again, I thought was magnificent. His 2 touchdown runs, they were not designed runs. He ran man-to-man coverage. The Red Sea open, he saw the green grass and took off and scored. He didn't turn the football over. I think when a quarterback knows he's in that kind of game, it's incumbent on your quarterback to have a rock-solid game like Jalen Hurts once again in a big situation had a rock-solid game.
Yeah, I think that's what champions do.
Yeah, and look, if number 11 is on the field for Dallas, is he able to run around like that? Is he able to check down like that all night? I mean, the whole game plan is different, and I think Jerry Jones said after the game we were 1 impact defensive player away from winning the game. Maybe he's even taking a little shot at himself. But I would say this, without Jalen Carter, Philadelphia is a little bit different. But I would also say about the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, 3 big drops in that game. If they stay healthy, they're not going to be that much of a pushover, if at all. I mean, this is still the Dallas Cowboys, and when they are healthy, they still have a roster that you have to deal with here. I kind of thought that you go into a game like this after all the drama that they had with this past week with Micah Parsons, that maybe the team is mentally distracted despite everything that they said. And there's a feel in the locker room. Oh God, we lost our best defensive player, one of the 5 or 6 biggest impact players in the league, and our chances of being the team we want to be are definitely lessened with him out. Now they do have the draft picks that they got, and Jerry's talking about maybe making a deal, and maybe they're going to be able to do that. But this was a missed opportunity. This was a real missed opportunity for the Dallas Cowboys because the Eagles lose a guy who was a big part of their game plan defensively. A lot of what the Cowboys did, and you heard Prescott say it was based on how they were going to handle him. He goes out of the game. Cowboys have this opportunity, but they don't get it done with the drops and with the lack of pressure that they were able to put on Jalen Hurts when he ran and running for the 2 touchdowns. So, it's kind of funny that, we think about the opening game of the season and we think about it the Facenda way.
It starts with a whistle and ends with a gun.
And it started with a spit. And that's what will be remembered about this game and how it began. It's really remarkable. By the way, we had 2 black quarterbacks start last night. When the Commanders play on Sunday, it'll be 2 black quarterbacks, 16 black starting quarterbacks to begin the season. And if you think back, as I've talked about, I think I talked about it this week or maybe last week, Charlie Ward coming out of Florida State, the Heisman Trophy winner, led his team to the national championship. And Charlie Ward was one hell of an athlete because he had the option of basketball. And he said to all the teams, and there were 8 rounds then, he said, if you don't take me in the first round, I'm going to play basketball. And not only did nobody take him in the first round, nobody even took a flyer in like the 7th round. Like, maybe we can talk him into this. And he went off and he played basketball and he had a nice NBA career. But you think about the way the game's played today, and I realize it was different when he came out of Florida State 35 years ago, almost 35, is that it was more of a pocket passing game and quarterbacks didn't run as much and so forth and so on. But it's possible he would have come in and lit up the league. I mean, just an incredible athlete who we never got to see. And, good for him. He made a lot of money playing basketball, maybe even more than he would have made playing football. And probably it's easier for him to get out of bed these days, having played basketball instead of football. But we were cheated out of something because of old line thinking and stupidity, really, and we'd already had Doug Williams win a Super Bowl. True, he wasn't a running quarterback, but the way that quarterbacks were thought of then versus now, that's really a remarkable change. 16 of the 32 starting quarterbacks are black. All right, we'll get to more on the Commanders as they get ready for this game on Sunday. The line has dropped a little bit. We'll get to that and more. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
I'm telling you, the Bill Belichick situation at North Carolina continues to take weirder and weirder twists. We'll get to the latest on that in about 20, 25 minutes. In case you missed it the other night, I mean, there's so many different things from that crazy game that they played against TCU on Monday night. But the girlfriend who was seen talking to him on the sidelines during the game, okay? Have you ever seen in your life watching football during a game, not in pregame, but during a game, a wife or girlfriend talking to the head coach? You wouldn't even see that at the high school level unless, the wife comes down and says, I'm my water broke. It's time to go to the hospital. Something like that. But she's down there talking to him. And then, I didn't even see this till yesterday, she was wearing one of his Super Bowl rings, and it must have been one of the later ones because it's the size of a hubcap. And she's taunting the TCU fans at the game, saying, how many of these do you have? As Pablo Torre reported on this, and he did extensive reporting on how she's basically taken over his life and how she works in the athletic department and she has access to all of his emails and all the recruiting. And, she's 24 years old. She's very ambitious, obviously, and very much in control of him. That he thinks that the over-under for Belichick at North Carolina is going to be a year. And they're playing, I guess it's it used to be UNC Charlotte. I think they just call it Charlotte now. They play them this week. That's a losable game. He's 0-2. And based on what I saw on Monday night, I don't think it's a slam dunk that he's going to beat Charlotte. I mean, where does this go? Does he even make it through the season? It's crazy. We'll get to that coming up. Yesterday was coordinator day in Ashburn, so we heard from Cliff Kingsbury and we heard from Joe Whitt Jr., the defensive coach, the defensive coordinator, and he talked a lot last year about how frustrated he was about not getting turnovers. They didn't turn the ball over much offensively, but they also didn't get the ball very much. And talked about this amazing stat that the 1983 Redskins had, plus 43 on turnovers, which was no coincidence that they became the highest scoring team of all time to that point. It's since been broken. But they were scoring a ton of points with a secondary that, by the way, was known as the Pearl Harbor crew, because they were getting bombed a lot. But they had an ability to get turnovers, which this defense did not last year. He's made some changes on defense. They've added some pieces to it, including Von Miller, who'll be sort of a situational guy. But he likes what he's seen, even though these days you hardly get to see your first-team defense on the field in the preseason. But he's hopeful from what he's seen in training camp.
From practice, and practice is practice. It's just the play style, all right? We've been very aggressive, very intentional with what we've been doing. The communication is light time, just better than what it was at any point last year. And so I've been just pleased with how the guys are connected and playing as one and playing with the aggression and the downhill mentality that we want to play with.
What a voice. Love that voice. Von Miller, mentioned him being added. Again, you're not going to see him for a lot of snaps, mostly like third and long situations. But Dan Quinn said this, that what he has added to the locker room, what he's added to mentoring the younger players has been huge, and that was sort of echoed by Whitt yesterday.
First, he's a professional. He's come in and really helped all the guys with all the knowledge that he's had over the years. I was with Julius Peppers later in his career when he came to Green Bay, and they're very similar with, very good pass rushers. They're different guys, but very good pass rushers. And so Vaughn still has a really very fast first step. He can bend. He's quick. And so all those athletic ability things he still has, and then with his knowledge, I'm excited to watch him play on Sunday.
All right, and then the additional veterans that they have now on defense and how it has changed the way he coaches the team.
What changes for me, I think, is the way that the guys study. So I can put a little bit more on their plate, because when you have veteran guys, not only Vaughn, but Dedrick Wise, Jacob Martin, they know how to study. They're not just rookies that are just watching film. They understand how to study film, and so you can give them more nuggets and more nuances to the defense than you could give a younger type defense.
Joe, do you think you've added more playmakers to take the ball away more this year? Is that something you'd like to see?
I would definitely like to see us take the ball away more, but we'll see. I think we've turned the ball over a lot in camp. We've had a number of interceptions. We've punched the ball out, but that's practice. Okay, all right. It has to translate to the game. Am I confident that it will translate to the game? I am. All right. But until we do it and do it on a consistent basis, it's still up in the air. But we have to do it.
And they did have Marshawn Lattimore for the second half of the season, but he was hurt and didn't play all that much, missed a few games. So to have him healthy will probably make a difference. Beefing up the pass rush a little bit should help. Here's something else on that fourth down conversion that they set the record last year, highest fourth down conversion ever. I think it was 20 for 23. I mean, just an amazing number. Is it possible, especially with the way the defense performed in the fourth quarter last year? They were really weak, which indicates a lack of depth. But is it possible, Dan Quinn being a defensive guy, I mean, that's his side of the ball. When he hasn't been a head coach, he's been a defensive coordinator or worked on defense. Is it possible that he looked at his defense and goes, we can't stop anybody, we might as well go for it? Does that change this year? If the defense is better, if the defense creates more turnovers, gives them more short fields, things like that, does that change the coaching strategy of Dan Quinn as well? I think it probably does. I think if you look at a situation like, geez, If we punt here, I don't have a lot of confidence that we can stop them. So let's try and hang on to the ball. Let's try and keep the clock moving, and let's try and score ourselves. I mean, that's and all those late scores. Well, they needed a lot of those late scores because the defense was not that good last year. And also, I really thought, and this is credit to Joe Whitt, they got a lot better as the season went on. They were not good at the beginning of the year. And, you know, the skeptic in me and probably in others looked at it and said, oh, okay, well, this is his first time as a defensive coordinator. He was a secondary coach in Dallas when he came here with Quinn. You know, there's a learning curve there. You know, he's got to get his feet wet. But as the season went on, they got better. But also the way they played offense was very helpful to the defense, that they were able to maintain possession of the ball. They rarely punted. Remember, they went through like 3 games where Tress Way didn't even get on the field except to hold for extra points. So that could be something to keep an eye on, that the way that the offense moves this year versus last year when they tended to go for it. I mean, Quinn said he's still going to be aggressive on these things. I mean, he's still going to be able to try and keep it the way they did it last year. That they have a mentality that, yeah, we're going to pick this up, we're going to do it. And he says, you know, when we're going through the drive, he'll say to Kingsbury, "You got 4 downs here." Meaning, you know, think about plays that if you don't get it on 3rd down, we're still going to go on 4th down unless it's, you know, 4th and long or something like that. All right, so a couple things from Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is, you know, it didn't used to be this way in the NFL, but you know, this is just how it works. Aaron Rodgers, who looked like he was going to be a one-team guy, is now on his 3rd team with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson had all the makings of a one-team guy in Seattle. He was a 3rd-round pick. Remember, they took a guy named Matt Flynn as a free agent. Matt Flynn had played the last game of the season for the Packers when Aaron Rodgers was sitting out because they had everything clinched for the playoffs, and he looked good in a meaningless game for the Packers. So they brought in Matt Flynn for, you know, at that time a significant contract, might have been well over $10 million, and he was expected to be the starter while this 3rd rounder that they took from Wisconsin, and I'd seen him play at North Carolina State. He was really good. The coach at North Carolina State wanted to play some guy who had like a cup of coffee in the NFL and told Russell Wilson, yeah, if you're going to play baseball and not be in spring practice, you're not going to be the starting quarterback. So Wilson said, okay. Graduated, went to Wisconsin, took him to the Rose Bowl, but was still a 3rd-round pick because they thought he was too small. And he played well enough to beat out the relatively high-priced free agent, and the rest is history. They won a Super Bowl, went to another one, and he was tracking to be a guy who was going to have a 15, 16-year career in Seattle, but it hasn't worked out that way. And the oddity now of playing Russell Wilson for the 3rd straight year with a 3rd different team, and it's his 4th team in 4 years. You know, they played him when he was in Seattle when he was at the top. I remember Brian Arakpo. They played a Monday night game, and they got beaten soundly. And Brian Arakpo said, this is how long ago it was, he said, we went toe-to-toe with the defending champs. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And Wilson continued to be good, but wore out his welcome in Seattle. Winds up going to the Denver Broncos, and then they played last year with Pittsburgh, and now for the 3rd year that they're facing him, he's the quarterback of the New York Giants. And when he was talking to the media, he was talking about, even though he's become a kind of a wandering quarterback, he's pumped up for this start on Sunday in Washington.
It's my 14th season. I'm blessed to be able to do what I love to do. And I got so much energy, so much belief, and so much confidence in who we are, what we can do, who we are as a team. And this team has got a lot of great talent and a lot of great guys, high character guys, a lot of will, a lot of want-to, and a lot of determination to do it right way. I think about guys like Nacho, who is a great leader. Even though he's not a captain, he's a tremendous leader, a vocal leader. He's a guy that's up front and just, I think about obviously you have your most dominant players like guys like Dexter Lawrence, who's a dominant player, but he's practicing his butt off on a Wednesday and knows that it's time to show up and show out. He's you're ready to go. Guys like Burns. I think about the offensive line. I saw Runyon in the locker room early this morning, and he went straight to the weight room early in the morning. And just that, when you have a veteran O-lineman, and other guys up front too that are the same way in the weight room, spending extra time, those little things add up. And I think that's just been consistent throughout the whole process. And so we're doing it together, and we get to do it, and like I said, play the game we love.
And the part about being one of 16 black starting quarterbacks in a league that he came into that was still, mostly white quarterbacks. Even with Doug Williams breaking barriers back in 1988, and then guys like Warren Moon. Warren Moon takes Washington to the Rose Bowl, and nobody even takes a look at him. And Warren Moon, not small. He was like 6'3", 210. He was a big, solid quarterback, and he had to go to Canada for 6 years. 6 years, goes to the Houston Oilers, and although he never made it to a Super Bowl, made it to the Hall of Fame. And so things come around, and now we're at a point where half the league has black starting quarterbacks, and all 4 quarterbacks in the NFC East are black starting quarterbacks. This was Wilson on the evolution of that.
To be honest with you, the game's changed a lot. When I think about when I came in, 2012, there wasn't many, black starting quarterbacks. I think about, Cam Newton had a heck of a year, his rookie year. Robert Griffin was the same year as me as well. He had a great rookie year. Guys that were just unbelievable football players. Colin Kaepernick was the year before me. Tyrod Taylor was playing some in Buffalo, but really that was really it. The game has changed. I think the game. We've had a lot of. I think what's been really cool about it is, when it's going actually ironically playing the Commanders. When you think about Doug Williams, the time between that Super Bowl. Fortunately, I was able to win 1, 2 as well and go to 2. I think that changed a lot, It changed a lot in terms of the perspective, not just being a black quarterback, but also the height part of it. Obviously, Drew Brees did a tremendous job of setting me up for success. Michael Vick, guys before that, Doug Flutie and others. But I think that the reality of the game, like I think you said 16, right? Like 16 black starting quarterbacks. That's a big deal. And it's just showing that the game's evolving. The league is evolving, and we need to continue that. But if you can play, you can play.
Yeah, obviously. But the point he makes too about the size, and I remember Mel Kiper talking about him when he was coming out, and he said, "Look, we've really only had one successful quarterback under 6 feet tall, and that's Drew Brees. So are you saying that Russell Wilson can become Drew Brees?" Well, he didn't become quite as good as Drew Brees, but he did go to 2 Super Bowls and won one, and has been a starting quarterback for 14 years in the NFL, or at least most of it. But yeah, you face 2 prejudices there when he comes out in 2012, and really, the running quarterback too. There was an evolution with that. Cam Newton wasn't just a running quarterback; he was built like a tight end. And I remember the Redskins played at Carolina in 2011 when they were going with the duo of John Beck and Rex Grossman. And Mike Shanahan, they lost, and Mike Shanahan was asked about, the style that Cam Newton played, and he said, that's a quarterback style that I could think about, and that's why he went along with it. I think he was on board with it. He did want to get Robert Griffin III. Of course, Dan Snyder was salivating at a star. Got to get a star. So they wanted to get Robert Griffin, and the plan was that they would bring Griffin along with a system that he was comfortable with. They took the league by surprise with the pistol, and that he would evolve into a pocket passer. And he got hurt. Haloti Ngata. He and his dad watched Kirk Cousins beat the Cleveland Browns. They decided that Mike Shanahan was trying to sabotage RG3's career, and they came back and said, no, we're a pocket passer now. And the rest is history. I mean, the whole narrative about, Robert Griffin III got hurt, and that ended his career. That didn't end his career. His career ended because, A, he didn't put in enough time in the tape room, and B, he was not accepting of the coaching style that they wanted to have. And also he was highly insecure. And he looked at Kirk Cousins and thought, if I sit out part of the 2013 season, as spectacular as he was in 2012, it's one of the greatest, if not the greatest rookie season ever. He only threw 5 interceptions, 20 touchdowns, ran for 850 yards. That's unbelievable. And he thought, oh, no, if Kirk Cousins plays, I might not get my job back. So he was all in for week 1, came back, wasn't healthy, and also didn't want to do what they wanted him to do and looked terrible in playing. And that got Mike Shanahan fired, and then the Jay Gruden thing, and then finally he got himself out of the league. All right, coming up, we'll get some more on the Commanders as they open the season on Sunday. Also, Ravens preview coming up at 10:30. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
It starts with a whistle and ends with a gun.
Yes, that was how I was supposed to start the last hour. It did not start with a whistle. It started with a spit. It started with a spit and an ejection. It included an hour delay because of lightning. And the Dallas Cowboys, who didn't have Micah Parsons to chase around Jalen Hurts, wound up losing 24-20 with Hurts scoring 2 touchdowns on the ground. And we're off and running in the 2025 season. A lot of drama, not necessarily related to on the field last night. Also, a lot of drops by the Cowboys, and that's going to be a problem for them. Possibly CeeDee Lamb making all that money. They don't pay him to drop the football, but he did, and that was a factor in last night's game as well. Speaking of dropped footballs, Mark Andrews, who dropped what would have been a sure 2-point conversion and tied things up for the Baltimore Ravens against the Bills in the playoffs last year, he's going to get another bite of the apple on Sunday night when the Ravens are playing in Buffalo, and we'll have the game for you here coming up at 7:30 on Sunday. We've got Ravens preview at 10:30 today. We'll talk to Samuel Njoku, who does the Ravens Talk podcast, and kind of get a sense of where they are. And in particular, Mark Andrews. I saw his news conference, and he was, he wanted to plow through that. He wasn't shying away from answering the question, but he said, "I'm a professional here. And I'm ready to move on and just think about this game." We'll see. Turn the page. Sometimes those kind of plays kind of stay in a guy's head for a long, long time. And, you hope that he's able to rebound from that. But, you just never know about it. So, Commanders, they started out as 6.5-point favorites. It's now down to 5.5. I'm not sure, but I guess there's some excitement about Russell Wilson starting for his 4th different team in 4 years as he's the Giants' starting quarterback. I'll tell you one thing about Wilson, and we've seen this. He throws a great deep ball. It's like a moon ball. It goes way up in the air. And if you remember this, when he was playing with Denver, second game of the season in 2023, they had a successful Hail Mary, and it brought them within 2. They went for 2 at the end of the game, and there was a play where you could have called pass interference, but they didn't, and Washington escaped with the win. They were 2-0. They finished the season with 4 wins, and that was very fortunate because that got them the opportunity to draft Jaden Daniels, and here we are, off and running with a team that people are picking to be a contender this year, according to all the preseason prognostications. This is from the Washington Times, USA Today, NFL.com, Bleacher Report, all listed the Commanders as the 6th best team in the league. ESPN was the most pessimistic. They had them at 11, concerns about the defense. And you continue to hear this, too, that, well, they got awfully lucky, as they did. I was at the Hail Mary game. There was a lot of luck involved in that and a lot of stupidity by a safety by the name of Stevenson, who was out of position trying to taunt the crowd and wound up tipping the pass that Noah Brown caught for the winning touchdown. There was, the overtime drive against Atlanta with Zach Ertz catching the touchdown, which, by the way, wouldn't end the game this year. If you're not paying attention, the overtime rules have changed. It's just like the postseason. You score a touchdown, you give the other team a chance. So you don't know how that game would have gone. And if Washington had lost that, they would have had to beat Dallas in the final game of the season, which they did anyway. Dallas didn't have anything to play for, but they did yank Jaden Daniels because they really weren't interested in having Micah Parsons, breathe down his neck the whole second half. And maybe that game plays out differently. So, a lot of things. And there seems to be this feel, well, the pendulum is going to swing back the other way. We'll see. They've made some improvements. You hope that, some of the veterans that they picked up will add something, as Zach Ertz and Bobby Wagner did last year. And with Ertz and Wagner a year older, do we see them decline a little bit? We'll see. The roster, it has never really been a talented roster but you have to go back probably to the Gibbs days. Gibbs won. They now have 5 players in the top 100. Daniels is number 21. Also ranked Terry McLaurin, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu. These guys are considered to be among the top players in the league. That's a big part of it. And now you bring in a guy like Von Miller, who's a true professional. They've talked about, how he's showing the other guys how important it is to put in the time. And so Cliff Kingsbury, who is known for getting there at 3:30. Jaden supposedly gets there at 5. Kingsbury's already on his second cup of coffee by then. But he does admire what Jaden does and what he's seeing from these veterans who are showing you, just what it takes.
I think when they see Jaden is up here, whatever hour he gets, but early, Bobby, Zach, I think that is more impactful for those guys because you see guys that have done it at a high level, Hall of Fame players, and that's what it takes. If you want to stay in this league 10, 11, 12 years, get a gold jacket, it's going to take everything. It's a lifestyle, and when you can watch guys on your team doing it, it goes a long way.
Yeah, that's a big part of what you do here with a rebuilding team, that you have guys who can show the younger guys what it takes to do that. The classic story of Alex Smith being like the rabbit for what we've seen in Kansas City, and he was a true professional, and that was really helpful for what we've seen. Also, this is an interesting comment I thought from Kingsbury yesterday. They did spend a lot of draft capital, and they're bringing in Laramie Tunsil, and if they re-sign him, it's going to be a big number, but. You want to protect Jaden Daniels, and as Kingsbury says, it could open up his offensive game plan.
You feel really good letting him go one-on-one against most guys. So a lot of times if you might have given some sort of chip or help there with the tight end, you can just let him eat, which definitely allows you to free release some backs, get some people out. So it's for a play designer, what we do each and every week, it definitely makes it easier.
Yeah. So that edge rusher now, they're going to see Micah Parsons in week 2, in the second game, not week 2, but it'll be a week next Thursday. And so that's going to be something that he did not have last year. He did not have one of those top tackles in the league, a guy in the top 100 of players around the league. To what Joe Whitt said yesterday, Thursday is always coordinator day, and remember last year, talking about lucky breaks, Malik Neighbors dropped a wide open pass which could have possibly given the Giants a win. I think at that point the Commanders were still trying to get their sea legs. They lost the opening game against Tampa. They got a great break in the Giants game when the kicker got hurt on the opening kickoff, and they were forced to use the punter or go for 2. So that was a lucky break that they got there. But they also, if you remember, Malik Neighbors late in the game dropped what would have been a first down pass and maybe set up a winning score. Now he's back. He's got history, of course, with Jaden. They were together at Arizona State. They're great friends. And this is Whitt on what it's going to take to defend him on Sunday.
What makes him dangerous is he's a really good athlete. Okay, to run after the catch is what he probably does best. Once he gets the ball in his hands, he is very dangerous. He can lead people. He has power to run through arm tackles. So that makes him dynamic. He can catch the ball in different planes as well. He's one of the better young receivers in the league. Are we better equipped to cover him this year? We'll see on Sunday.
Along those lines, what do you like about that secondary from what you've seen this summer?
If you've been out there at practice, and we have to bring our practice to the game field. We've been really sticky. All right, we've challenged. Press been more of what I envision of our secondary being than what we were necessarily last year from a standpoint of just being very aggressive and getting up. And so I've been pleased with the way that those guys have challenged routes and turned the ball over and communicating and doing those things.
Yeah, they're going to face some good receivers this year. The schedule gets tougher when you have a winning season. Not a last-place schedule anymore. And they have, at least for now, they could have more because they have the flex, 6 nationally televised games, including the one where they play at Green Bay on Thursday and the Christmas Day matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. So they're going to be on display. And I think ESPN rated them the most watchable team in the league for whatever that's worth. All right, let's get to the other big narrative about Jayden Daniels. Well, we've seen these second-year quarterbacks take a step back. Look at C.J. Stroud in Houston. They still made the playoffs, but Stroud did not improve from his first year. Is it possible you have sort of a sophomore slump? Steve Young yesterday on PTI, they did an hour of PTI yesterday. Now, I've not talked to Tony about this, but I know in the past that he has not wanted to do an hour. And, to be fair to ESPN, it was only their third show of the week. Yesterday after being off for a month, and they're off today. So, being asked to do an hour of television as opposed to a half hour, we're not going to have a benefit for Tony and Mike. But what they did yesterday was interesting because, they canceled Around the Horn in the spring, and they put in a Sports Center at 5 o'clock and kept PTI at 5:30. But, are they attempting to make that an hour show? I would say this, having watched it yesterday, it's a better half-hour show. The 5 good minutes with both Steve Young and Booger McFarland wound up being about 7.5. Just a different pace of the show. And, you're going to have days where you're not going to have an hour's worth of material. It's just not going to happen. And Tony, typically, this is not surprised by this, kind of kvetching his way through the whole show about how long it was. But they did have Steve Young on, and Steve Young is no longer with ESPN. I don't understand that. Maybe it was a money thing because he's excellent. He goes on Dan Patrick quite a bit. I guess he's not working for anybody right now. Not that he has to. He's become very wealthy in business. But he's still really sharp, really funny, really insightful. And they got to that point about the sophomore slump and what you might expect from Jayden Daniels in year 2.
You throw the mechanic in the trunk as a rookie. Like, everything's reflexive. You jump in, you use your intuition. You don't have, your mind is not cluttered because you don't have time to clutter it. And then the offseason, the coaches just go to school and they want you to become more sophisticated, which is really true. You want to grow into more sophistication. You saw Patrick Mahomes transition as he did that very effectively. And so the second year, you can get overwhelmed with information. And all of a sudden, all the things that you did so well as a rookie was just free and open and intuitive, reflexive. It becomes kind of bogged down. And so you got to be careful. And Jayden's the only one that can guard for that. And he needs to watch for it because I've seen second-year guys get bogged down with too much information.
All right, I waited a whole question to get to my Bears, but I'm going to do it now because everybody around the Bears has high hopes because of Ben Johnson, 3 new offensive linemen joining Caleb, but they still have an issue at left tackle. In your life, this would have been right tackle where that question comes up more, but what do you do to alleviate concerns and issues? They just named the left tackle like day before yesterday. Problems here, Steve? What do you do?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, as you know, Michael, football hates lefties, hates left-handed anything. But you're going to have to line up in the left formation with a tight end over there. You have to chip. You're going to have to, they'll have to help. They'll have to slide that way. They'll have to make up for it. You have to make accommodations for the left tackle. There's no position on the field, maybe other than corner, that is more important that you can't hide. Football has too many people on the field, so you can usually hide guys. You cannot hide the left tackle, and I think that's why you're bringing it up.
I'm going to bring up Cam Ward now because he's going to start week 1 for the Titans. Steve, rookies have to sit sometimes forever, at least for a while. When you look at rookie quarterbacks coming to the league now, how different are things then and now?
All right, so there's speed and sophistication, right? And the speed is always the same. It's always been incredible athletes, the best athletes in the world. But the sophistication is different. Back when earlier days before the rule changes for safety, I always said in college, no receiver's open. In the pros, in college, everyone's open. In the pros, nobody's open. In the game today, because it's less sophisticated, because there's more college-like offense allowed, because defenses can't launch and they can't cover as much ground, the transition's not as hard. It's just not. And that's why you think about the offenses you watch in college on Saturday and the offenses you watch on Sunday, there's not a huge difference where there used to be a massive difference. And that helps young quarterbacks transition. But still, watch out for the speed, because the speed is so much more fast as a pro that a lot of quarterbacks still struggle.
I got to say that answer surprises me a lot, because I've always lived by that notion that college is way different from the pros. And if you're saying they're meshing, that surprises me a lot. I'll say with quarterbacks, though.
Coming together.
Yeah, Joe Burrow has said some confident things recently. He told Sports Illustrated he's not sure anyone is playing the position better than he is right now, and he's ready to put on a show. It sort of sounds like boasting. Do you think boasting is a good sign for Joe Burrow?
I'm not sure. I think Joe hopes so. I mean, everyone gets ready to play differently, right? Josh Allen now famously throws up before every game. Everyone deals with it differently. I feel like Joe's probably in the mirror pregame with his shirt off, with the bicep curl, and kind of looking with the big chain, kind of looking in the mirror like, I am all that. I am that guy. You know what? And if you play great, good. I just always felt like I never wanted to say anything that made the job harder. Defenses generally, nameless, faceless, but all of a sudden they say to themselves, Joe Burrow, Myles Garrett, they open up against Cleveland. Myles Garrett sees that and says, I'm going to take special attention here and make sure that guy doesn't, like Aaron Rodgers did it when he said, I own Chicago. I'm sure that's going to make you happy, Michael.
Yeah.
But I think you make the job, the dangerous part is you can make the job a little harder than it already is, and it's already the hardest job in the world. So.
We will get you out of here on this. Mark Andrews dropped that sure two-point conversion that cost the Ravens in their playoff loss to the Bills. As a quarterback, what do you say to that player in the offseason?
Well, I can tell you, I told you earlier, football has too many guys. It's chaos. And every time something goes wrong, there's 50 reasons why. And so players understand that. And they understand that, stuff happens. And especially under dramatic circumstances, it's brutal. But I think when you have a great culture, which the Ravens have had for really 15 years, I got to give them so much credit. That locker room is always cohesive, that it can turn out to be something positive. You can spend the offseason and kind of rallying in a way because, look, everyone makes – I remember I played the Raiders once, last second, touchdown wins the game. I'm running around scrambling, and Jerry Rice is literally in the end zone like this, like just waving his arms. I never see him, and we lose. And you know what? Great locker rooms handle mistakes. They deal with it, and I appreciate my teammates dealing with me over the years too.
Before we let you go, I got one more thing. A PS is in my head here. Steve, what are you looking to as we go into week one of the NFL season? What are you looking forward to? Any storyline, player, coach, thing, element that just has you intrigued as we go into this first weekend?
Well, I think more than anything, Michael, I mentioned about the rule changes. So the sophistication versus college has kind of gone down so the transition can happen. I'm looking for those transitions of teams that can just turn the page. The 49ers are trying to turn the page. The Vikings are trying to turn the page. There's good teams out there that you want, especially in preseason, which September is. In the preseason, you want to see them be able to turn it that fast so they can actually compete in December and January for the ultimate prize. So I'm watching for those teams that are in transition to see how fast they can do it.
That's Steve Young yesterday on PTI, and you heard him right there at the end say September is preseason, which is really true. Hardly anybody plays. And if they play, it's like what we got from Jaden Daniels, 4 plays without a pass. So, yeah, and Bill Belichick understood this pretty early on. He didn't give you everything he had in September because he was playing for January. And there was even a point, and Tom Jackson was great, but there was a early season game which they got blown out at the height of their dynasty. And Tom Jackson said that Bill Belichick had lost the locker room. So in fact, anything you see in this first month of the season don't overreact to it. Just don't overreact. I think that's a good lesson. But Steve Young is great, still good, even though he's no longer employed by the four letters. Speaking of the four letters, Steve Ballmer talking to ESPN, Ramona Shelburne yesterday, pushing back on the Pablo Torre report that Kawhi Leonard got $28 million in an endorsement from Aspiration, a bankrupt company, which Ballmer had invested $50 million in as a way to circumvent the salary cap. He was paid to be an endorser. The problem was he never endorsed. He didn't do anything. He just collected the money. There's also another story now floating around that he got $20 million from something else. So it may have been an extra $48 million for a guy who had agreed in 2021 to a 4-year, $173 million extension, which is the max. So to sweeten it up, there may have been these payments that nobody was supposed to know about and circumvent the salary cap. Now, Ballmer is saying that he wants the league to investigate this. He says, I want him to look at this. And he says he's got all kinds of reasons why this didn't happen. He said that the introduction of Kawhi Leonard came in 2021, 3 months after the Clippers had agreed to the deal. So he's saying that when we signed him, oh, no, this just popped up. Hey, we'd like to have Kawhi Leonard as an endorser. Well, why didn't they use him? If that's the case, why is there no record of him being used as an endorser? And as Pablo Torre reported, when they declared bankruptcy, the first creditor that they had to make sure they paid was Kawhi Leonard, paid for doing nothing. So, you know, what's the real story here? I understand why he's going to deny, and he's going to go on ESPN to try to get some public support for this. The company was really, dirty. The founder, Joe Sandberg, pleaded guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud for defrauding investors of more than $248 million. And according to Ballmer, and this is a savvy businessman. He's saying, hey, these guys committed fraud. They conned me. I made an investment in these guys thinking it was on the up and up, and they conned me at this stage. I have no ability to predict why they might have done anything that they did, let alone the specific contract with Kawhi. Okay, so the claim from Steve Ballmer is that with all of his money and savviness and, yes, his background in Microsoft and everything that he's done and paying $2 billion for the Clippers, which seemed insane at the time but now has turned out to be a good investment with NBA teams now selling for, I think the Celtics, one of them, Celtics sold for like $10 billion. Oh, no, Lakers sold for $10 billion. So $2 billion for the Clippers, pretty much of a bargain as it looks now. And he said, oh, yeah, they asked for $50 million, and they just conned me. Now, $50 million is not a lot of money to him. He can stroke that check. But then, just a coincidence? They say, hey, Steve, is it okay if we use Kawhi as an endorser? Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Why don't you talk to them, Kawhi? $28 million, huh? To do nothing. How many endorsers of a company that's a tree planting company, how many of them can afford an endorser who plays in the NBA and seemingly would have no connection to planting trees? How can they afford to pay $28 million? A lot of holes in this. Ballmer says he had no control of the company. He owned less than 3%. I don't know why he felt like this was such a great investment. Also, the league was snooping around on this as well. They investigated the Clippers' free agent pursuit of Leonard after a December 2020 lawsuit was filed by Johnny Wilkes, who alleged that he helped the team acquire Leonard in exchange for a $2.5 million payment from Clippers consultant Jerry West. The Clippers denied it. The lawsuit was dismissed. The league did not issue a penalty. But this one stinks to high heaven. Got to believe that this is going to be a very difficult thing for Ballmer. I would imagine he's going to get fined, which won't mean anything to him, but the draft picks will. And there was a similar thing where the Minnesota Timberwolves tried to circumvent things 25 years ago, and it cost them 5 first-round picks. Real quick on the U.S. Open, which wraps up this weekend. I've been a number of times. Concession prices now they're going to be high this weekend at Northwest Stadium. There's like I think there's like $35 nachos or something like that. But there's a couple of cocktails there. The Honey Deuce mixture of Grey Goose vodka, lemonade, and raspberry liqueur costs you $23 a piece. But they're selling. According to the USTA, U.S. Tennis Association, they sold 500,000 of them during last year's tournament. The organizers pocketed nearly $12.8 million off the drink, so they're doing well. There's also the $39 million watermelon slice from IHG Hotels and Resorts, the official sponsor of the tournament. It comes in a neon green wine glass shaped like a tennis ball with a nice healthy wedge of watermelon. It features Moet and Chandon champagne, watermelon juice, elderflower liqueur, and lime. $39 for a cocktail. Wow, I'll have another. No, I can't afford to have another. The bottled water costs $9 a piece. There is the chicken sandwich, which sells for $26. The lobster roll, which costs you $40. And this actually seems like a bargain. A brisket sandwich from Hill Country, which is really good, $26. The U.S. Open has been known for very high food prices. And Steve Summers, who was one of the early stars of WFAN, I worked with him. I consider him a friend. He used to call the U.S. Open the U.S. closed. He says this is not for the masses. And with prices like that, you can understand. Ravens preview is coming up next. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.